brake pad and rotor replacement on a 2012 Mazda 3 2.0. Step 1 is to loosen your lug nuts while the car is still on the ground. Jack up the car and put the forward control arm on jack stands. On the forward control arm. Next, remove all the lug nuts in the wheel. Take the wheel and put it underneath the car, just behind the jack for added safety. So we have the jack stand, we have the jack, and the wheel. There are 3 elements of safety. The rotors produce some sort of judder, so I believe they're a little bit warped. So we loosen this with a breaker bar. Now we will untorque the slider pins on both sides. 7mm head. So note that we have our flathead on the bottom of the pin as it's come out, just to give us a little bit more leverage. Replace these with new ones. You can move that top piece out with your finger and then use a flathead just to pop that out. Same thing on the bottom. Remove the caliper from the mounting bracket, giving it a nice little pull. Separate the caliper. Our inboard and outboard pads. Here's where the 7mm slides. Here's the caliper piston, which is actually locked to the aft pad. Use our 2 fingers on the back to get the clips out of the inboard. So we've hung our caliper so that the actual brake hose below here has no stress in it. We'll remove the caliper bracket bolts and the caliper bracket. These are 17mm and will require a breaker bar to break. To get these rotors off, jacking screw setup. Check the description below for the bolt head and screw size. One of these on the top bolt and one on the bottom, and we adjust both of them equally until the rotor pops off nicely. You'll hear some creaking. Just rotate it, keep the car in neutral, tap each side, keep rotating it, hit it again, rotate it, hit it again. With all the rust is what kept it so difficult to remove the brake. The new brake rotor is painted, and that will help us avoid rust and make it easier to remove. Remove the coating from the rotor with a brake clean. Have no oil on them prior to installation. A liberal amount of anti-seize on this surface that we cleaned, and that will make it so that it's much easier to take off in the future. We need to make sure none of that lube finds its way onto the rotor itself. Now we're going to do everything in reverse. Polish up with our wire brush and make sure that there's absolutely nothing in there. Clean these with a wire brush as well so that they don't gall. And we're going to reapply some Loctite glue to the threads before we install the caliper bracket. So again, a liberal amount to 70 foot-pounds. Final torque to 70. We're going to use a kit that you could get for free from AutoZone, or you can purchase in the link below. We're going to use this tool, insert it into the piston. Slowly but surely, the pistons are recompressing. To flush out some of the older fluid in the caliper, which is a good idea, you could open the bleeder screw at this point if you have a catch basin below. We just had warped rotors, didn't need to compress this too much. So now we could remove and the assembly will simply pop right out. These clips to install it correctly, and they will click right into place. We're going to put some more anti-seize along this non-braking surface so that could easily slide around, and a little bit of anti-seize in the rails, an area where we saw signs of unequal wear on the last set. Coated this in anti-seize, fit the pad into place along its hooks. These are brand new. Before we put them in, we're going to put a special caliper grease on. Links in the description below. Make sure that they slide freely. Once again, 7mm hex head, 22 foot-pounds of torque. And final torque. And once they're torqued up, we'll be sure to put on their dust boots, just because there's so much sand and salt here in Boston. We'll put on our anti-rattle clip. Take the top ones in, give it a little tap, make sure that all one engages. And then the bottom one will be tensioned. Put the wheel back, lower the car, and torque the lug nuts to 80 foot-pounds. If you found this video helpful, please consider subscribing. Thanks for watching, and have a good one.